Good morning. Welcome to the Date Series. The JW Date Series seeks to provide primary resources about important dates in JW history. The series hopes to benefit students and apologists seeking primary sources for papers and projects. It also hopes to assist Jehovah's Witnesses who are doing research on their history. Each JW date video begins with a brief summary of the date's significance and is followed by a slide presentation with multiple quotes from primary sources. Each is footnoted for ease of access or for writing. The slide presentation itself is available for download at the site listed on the last slide. If you would like other primary resources, please suggest topics in the section below. Thank you, and I hope you find this helpful. Good morning. We're going to be talking about the year 1878. Russell had been working with Nelson Barber just prior to this, and he was an Adventist. And in common with the second Adventist, there was an understanding that biblical prophecy was often mirrored. And what that meant in this case was that because Jesus had spent 3.5 years on the earth after his initial coming, that we could anticipate that because Jesus had returned in 1874, 3.5 years after that, he would again be returning to heaven. And at that time, his church would be raptured or would go with him, and he would be installed as king. So those were fairly common beliefs at the time. However, 1878 came and went, and that created a certain number of problems. For the Adventists, it was a problem because physically Jesus was not seen to have returned, and nobody was raptured. This didn't bother Russell that much, however, because if you remember from the last year that he was concerned about, 1874, Jesus was invisible. So he thought about it a little bit, and he determined in his mind that what had actually happened was that Jesus had invisibly taken all those saints who had previously died, part of the 144,000 who were dead, and he took those to heaven at that time, and he was installed on earth as king at the same time. So where the Adventists had to wrestle with nothing happening and they had anticipated physical change, Russell was able to include his beliefs even though there was no real evidence that anything had happened. So in Russell's teaching and in his mind, in the year 1878, Jesus had taken his saints invisibly to heaven, and he had been installed on the earth as king at that time as well. It reminds me just a little bit of neo-orthodoxy, where there's an effort being made to take the issues of faith and move them beyond things which can be falsified. And if I do say so, it's a fairly clever move, deliberate or not, on Russell's part. The following slides are from the JW Date series, and this would be for the rapture of 1878. Most of these slides are taken from a book by both Barber and Russell, The Three Worlds and the Harvest of This World, from the year 1877. And they are, for the most part, based on the idea of mirroring, or the concept of mirroring. For instance, it took 3.5 years from the time that Christ came to the earth until the time that he ascended again. So they would be looking at from the time of his return. This time it would be 3.5 years to rapture the church, sort of thing. So there's a lot of dating going on like that. Again, same book by Barber and Russell, and the idea that 1878 will be the year that the church will be experiencing the effects of that ascension of Christ after 3.5 years.
We're mirroring larger time periods in these particular slides, but again, the effect is the same because it took so long to get from point A to B in the Old Testament, and then currently we're seeing it take so long to get from A to B, and all of this is to do with the fact that the year 1878 is going to be the year that Jesus is going to ascend again or be enthroned. Not only are we going to have Jesus um, uh, raising the saints and being glorified, but God's wrath is going to be not God's wrath, but the wrath of the nations is going to be there. And this would be seen in societal turmoil between the year of Jesus' return in 1874 and 1914. He's going to assume power again as Heavenly King in 1878. And we see this from Jehovah's Witnesses, Proclaimers of God's Kingdom, written in 1993. From Watchtower Investigated UK from 2014, we notice that Russell and Barber were absolutely sure the translation of the little flock or the true church would occur at the latest April 6, 1878.